All right, so when we do operations with complex numbers, the good news is that this works just like basic algebra with x's. It's basically just combining the like terms. So number one, simplify. Well, I do have to distribute this negative here. So negative 1 plus 3i minus 2. Double negative makes that plus 3i. Just like with x's, we'll combine the negative 1 with the negative 2. That'll be negative 3. And then 3i plus 3i, 6i. Now, I suppose it is a little bit different than with x's. With x's, you usually put the x first, but with these imaginary numbers, you put the plain number first, then the I. So 2's even easier. Combine the 3 with the plus 6. 3 plus 6 is 9. Then negative 8 plus 6 minus 2i. And then 3 again. A lot of times what I see with questions like this is people just forget to distribute the negative. So we got negative 2 plus that I minus 2 double negative plus 2i. Bring that plus 7i down. And then negative 2 minus 2, negative 4. The plus I there is plus 1i. So 1 plus 2, 3, plus 7, 10i. Easy. All right, now before we start the next ones, when we multiply these, as you can see, we're going to get some I squareds. Now we got to figure out what I squared means. Now I'm going to use the definition here of I. I equals the square root of negative 1. Just keep in mind, you don't want to write the square root of negative 1. If you have I to the first, just leave it as I to the first. You don't want to use that right there. We're just going to use it to think about what I squared would mean. Because if I just take this, if I square the left side, whatever I do to one side, I got to do to the other. And then squaring cancels out a square root. So I squared equals negative 1. We are going to use this in these questions. Remember, I to the first, don't write radical negative 1, just leave it I. I squared, though, like on the next one. Well, before I even get that far, don't forget, if it's a binomial like that, you can't just square each of them. You got to write it out twice. And that is supposed to be a negative there. You got to do the double distribution. So negative 2 times negative 2 is 4. Minus 10i minus another 10i. So, I mean, this really isn't that hard so far. Then 5 times 5, 25 I squared. Well, here's where we use what we just figured out. I squared is negative 1. So I'll substitute negative 1 in. All that will do will be to change the plus 25 to minus 25. Now also just remember, I squared, the whole thing is negative 1. So you don't write I anymore. It just is minus 25 now. So then 4 minus 25, negative 21. Minus 10i minus another 10i minus 20i. Same idea on the next one. Negative 48 minus 40i plus 30i plus 25i squared. Just coincidence that that's 25 again. That I squared is -1. Like we just said, that's -1. So that'll just switch that to -25. No more I. So -48 minus 25 is -73. And then -40i plus 30i minus 10i. So as you can see, that's how you deal with it with double distribution, with multiplying these complex numbers. Now it works with single distribution too. So 5i times -1, -5i. And then -5 times 8, 40i squared. There's that I squared again, which is -1. So that's just going to change that to plus 40. There's no other plain numbers to combine it with. I'll put it first. And then minus 5i, nothing to do with that. Minus 5i. 7, basically the same idea here. We'll distribute. We'll get -16i minus 6i squared. Oh, I squared makes that negative. So -1 times -6, positive 6, minus 16i. And every once in a while, they'll ask these questions with the radicals of a negative, the square root of a negative. Don't forget, when we first started doing all this imaginary number stuff, all you do, if you're taking the square root of a negative number, just forget that it's there. What's the square root of 110? Because it is the square root of a negative, put an I on it. So then minus square root of 16 is 4. Put an I on it. 10i minus 4i, 6i. Number 9, okay, so that's minus, excuse me, there's no minus there. Ah. Anyway, so that's 5i. Sorry about that. Plus, well, we got this 2 out front. Just don't forget, that's 2 times. So it'd be 2 times square root of 16, 4 with the I. Well, I got to multiply before I add, so bring the 5i plus 2 times 4, 8i. 8 plus 5, 13i. Hopefully this isn't too bad. Then 10, hey, that's 6i plus 3 times square root of 100 is 10 with the I. Then bring the plus 10i down. Got to multiply, that's 30i. Bring the others down. 6 plus 30, 36 plus 10, 46i.